all right, this isn't an emergency episode, but once you listen to it, you have to take action because time is running out. If you spent any amount of time on Camp Lejeune, you're going to want to tune in. There's a massive lawsuit that's about to expire and you need to get your claim in. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you have evidence that you were on this base. So whether you're a Marine Corps veteran or not that spent time in Camp Lejeune, it applies to anybody that was on the base. So if you're Canadian and you did a bunch of exercises down there and you spent a total of 30 days, it doesn't have to be consecutive, just 30 days total, you can file a claim. If you're a civilian, you can file a claim. You can find out all the information as to how you can file a claim on this episode. Mark Burnett created a website that is going to help you compile that evidence. It's fascinating. I was not tracking this, but if I can help one veteran get their lawsuit sorted out so that they can get the reparations that they're owed, then I've done my job. So share widely with your friends, share with any Marine Corps veterans you might know, and let's get into the episode and find out more. I don't want to make that.
That's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also I'm publishing an episode actually this week with Grunt Style First Sergeant Tim Jensen. I don't know if you know who that is. He has the Grunt Style Apparel Company. Mm-hmm. Marine Corps veteran, obviously, and then he's also got the Grunt Style Foundation, and they're on the side of passing legislation, helping get the PACT Act passed for toxic exposure. And this falls in line with the conversation that I just had last week with him and publishing this week. And it's something that I'm trying to push here in Canada because we don't track it at all. Right. We don't track it at all. And there's a lot of folks that don't know why they're getting ill. And, it's 5-10 years after service.
Sure.
And even, let's say deployments aside, domestically, we're getting poisoned as well. So this is a broader conversation I'd like to have. So I really appreciate you being here. So let's get right into it. We'll get into your a little bit of your backstory and then get right into the issue at hand.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was born in Camp Lejeune. As far as I can tell from my father's service records, I was conceived in Camp Lejeune.
No way.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe it was late night on the desk. Yeah. But
good old Marines. Still
a Marine. Push the name tag aside. My mom was in utero throughout Camp Lejeune, so she was drinking the water and everything like that, and so I was constantly exposed. My mom started getting sick in her second and third trimester quite a bit, so she went to the Navy hospital, which was there on base at Camp Lejeune, and they said she had toxemia, which is like something toxic in the blood, but they didn't know what it was. And since then, that name has kind of gone away, not used very much anymore. But at that time, they told her that to get rest and drink lots of water. And so when you think about that, it was probably the worst thing that she could have done is continue to, drink
more of the toxic water. Right. Yeah.
Right. So for me, what it came out to be is now I have Parkinson's. So I've developed Parkinson's. The government has admitted that the base at Camp Lejeune has 70% higher Parkinson's than any other base. So with that combination coming out, and that started to come out when COVID was running around, and, I was like, I'm not sure I want to go to the doctor. I just keep falling into the refrigerator and, tripping downstairs, normal things you do as you get older, but it seemed a little too much. Mm-hmm. And I started to realize I had a shake in my hand. I work on the keyboard a lot. So, I would be, flickering finger, thing like that. And so I knew something was wrong. And then I got diagnosed with Parkinson's by my main doctor and then went to a neurologist and continued forward with that. And the diagnosis did not change. It stayed the same. That's what I have. So Parkinson's in Camp Lejeune is a track 1 disease. It is considered one of the highest diseases, and there are 5 diseases that are listed in track 1. The government, I should say the courts and the lawyers are defining track 2s and track 3s and so forth. They said there's no end to these tracks right now because they don't know themselves. So I got involved more on the side of what I built was I tried to do research from the Camp Lejeune newspaper. And this is actually right here is a 1944
Whoa.
version. Yeah. I found this
You got
one.
the hard copy.
This is a hard copy, not AI. This is the real thing. And with the idea that with this paper, which we literally went through and found 36,000 pages of that paper, if you can imagine the volume of that, stored. And it was unsearchable by the government. You can't go in and search for a name or do anything like that. And it took me 6 months to find my name, when I was born, what my parents were doing, things like that started to show up. So evidence started to show up that I could use. And I realized that was so hard to do. I built chemicalcasualties.com because I wanted to allow people to come in and do a free name search, go through that 36,000 pages in 1 second and go, hey, there I am, or there's my parents or my grandparents or relative or whatever. We were, before camera here, talking about tort and things like that. This is not a tort. These are individual cases. So it does allow, even if the person has passed away or their family, to file an open an estate and file on their behalf.
Veterans, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you're going to want to tune into this offer. If not, carry on. Here's the deal. Veterans are in worse shape than the general population. We are more obese, suffer from higher rates of chronic pain, and that compounds any mental health issues that might be lingering. Years of working with the veteran population has taught me that it's not a lack of motivation or discipline that's keeping us sick and tired. It's actually just a crap framework. Let me explain. Most of us spent years pushing ourselves physically and mentally, and were rewarded for not taking care of ourselves with promotions and more missions. Once you're out, the framework has to change, or you'll end up fat, tired, and sick. I've helped over 1,000 veterans get a grip of their habits and develop a new framework so that they can live happier, healthier lives. You can learn how to create your new health and fitness framework by joining my Veterans Getting Fit AF community today. You'll get a weekly Q&A session, clearly laid out workout programs, and nutrition plans with a supportive community to keep you motivated, all in a very non-politically correct environment. And you get to do this 100% at your own pace without someone reminding you that you missed your burpee workout yesterday. To become a member is real simple. Just click the link below. But wait, there's more. I'm offering membership into my Veterans Getting Fit AF community for free this month. Plus, if you join today, you'll get access to the world's easiest workout program as a special bonus. Don't hesitate to click the link and let's get you fit AF. So I'm just pulling it up here on the screen. So chemicalcasualties.com. So tell me, Mark, this seems like a massive undertaking.
Yes.
How long did you said 6 months to go through the papers, but to set up a searchable database, that must have taken a sizable amount of time. Like, how big is your team and how long did it take?
Sure. Small team, but I would say sniper capabilities.
Nice.
Because what I have built databases for the International Monetary Fund to go around the world.
There we go. Okay, good. Now we're getting a clearer picture, because I wouldn't know the first thing in order to get this up and running.
Built databases for the Pentagon.
Gotcha.
For me. So my ability to build databases was right there, and I knew the right team I could call. Called them up and said, let's go, guys, here's what we need to do. And, they're, hey, no problem. Let's rock it out. And to this day now, we're going back through that data with literally, because the way it was scanned in originally by the government was horrible. It's very out of focus. It has lots of problems. It was actually bound in the side. So when you open it, names fall off the page because of that binding. So there's a lot of lost information. So we actually have people we're paying out of my own pocket to go and just, go through it with your eyes, see where the OCR software doesn't pick it up, and then put those names in. And they're typists, and that's what they do. So they're retyping and adding to the database every day to make it even larger. So far, we've indexed about 86 million words out of the paper. Yeah, huge numbers, massive numbers. I mean, we're in the terabytes of storage.
Wow, Mark, give me an idea of the scope of this. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be obviously you're passionate about this, and clearly you have the technical know-how. And we didn't get into it, but you were conceived on a Marine base. Were you a Marine as well?
No, I wasn't. Actually,
Okay.
when I came out, and my father then went to Cherry Point, a nearby base, which we found actually in the paper was actually contaminated by Camp Lejeune, which has not been, well, this is one of the first places you're going to really hear that. And I'll tell you something that has not been mentioned yet, that the bakery made all the bread, donuts, and at that time they called them sinkers, sinking your coffee, disappear. And they would send that to the nearby Cherry Point. So as I grew up and became older and ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches instead of the formula they would feed me in the hospital or my mom would make on base, I was still getting contaminated because the bread was made out of the water from Camp Lejeune. So I didn't get away from it.
That's wild.
And yeah, it was horrible. I mean, when you think about it, because people have also said there's problems with Camp Lejeune, but nobody put it together. But when we went through this paper and we started researching it and I started going through it, I started finding these components where, again, the Marines just reported on what they reported on. They talked about the bakery. They talked about the ice plant that had 400,000 tons of ice in it constantly and made 20 to 30 tons of ice every day. That ice was used at the NCO clubs to put in a drink. It was used at the beach. It was used at the mess hall. So all the water went into that ice. Another thing we found that was huge. The conspiracy part here is not really conspiracy back then, but covering it up obviously was. The other thing is they had a steam plant which produced 200,000 pounds of steam every hour. That steam plant pulled from the water sources, pulled from the wells, and that in itself doesn't sound bad in the sense that they heated most of this stuff where it was heated. But what the person who ran the steam plant mentioned, and he mentioned more than once, is that all the food in the mess hall that was steamed, potatoes, broccoli, anything of that sort, carrots, was steamed from the steam plant.
So what kind of toxicity are we talking about here? Like we're talking about lead. We're talking about like solvents.
They're all considered volatile chemicals. So
Okay.
these were solvents for the most part. They were cleaning fluids, things of that order. But there were multiple ones. It wasn't just one. So the contamination, when they found it, actually they had high levels of, I want to say 5 different chemicals. So it wasn't just one. Each chemical may cause its own problem, but the way the government finally investigated this and looked at it, a separate group that investigates chemical contamination, they went through and showed, this is what's going to happen. These are the kind of diseases that are going to come out of this, the likelihoods. And then they started interviewing Marines, and they saw this higher likelihood, especially of Parkinson's. Which was more my interest, where are they at? And that came out just recently. They just did a new report showing the 70% higher rating of Parkinson's coming out of Camp Lejeune than any other base. And that's what I have. So you kind of put it together. It's not hard. And it's not hard to figure out. I was there, my father and mother were there for 3 years. So we go way past the 30-day amount. But the important part is this lawsuit, and I think a lot of people miss this, is open to every civilian that was hired on the base. Everyone who came in, unfortunately, and we found this in the paper, the Girl Scouts trained in the pool at the base. The base had many pools. It was water-based, Marine base, jump in the water, learn not to drown, the hard way. And but they also use those pools for the Red Cross and Girl Scouts. And most of those Red Cross members were in for a 10-week course. So they too breathe, sucked in the water. You don't go in a pool and not get water in you. And you're in the water. It's penetrating your eyes and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So they are also eligible. But a lot of people don't know that. And maybe those parents passed, but they can open up estates for their parents based upon that and get filed.
So what then Mark got got us to the point where you could actually file a lawsuit? How many folks had to come forward to say, hey, there's
Sure.
a problem here? Because clearly this was going on for decades.
Yes.
But now it's all of a sudden now that, okay, you can go ahead and file a lawsuit. What brought that
Sure.
on?
Well, that was brought on by essentially Congress and the Senate got down to this problem and realized that this issue was going on, and I think because it had been covered up, by the top brass there at that point, they decided to extend the ability of people to file a lawsuit. So the basic component is we're going to extend that till April 9th of this year. Okay, I'm sorry, not April, August 9th. So coming up in only a few weeks after this broadcast, you're going to be at a cutoff point where you can't file. So everybody needs to file. You only need to provide, I think it's like 5 components to file, and you do not need to be sick at this time. You can file for what's called medical monitor. Okay. And then that way, if you get it later or something happens later, then you get to go full suit at that point. Now I relate it to, people ask me like, well, is it worth it to do it? I say, you go out and buy the lottery, and you put money on the lottery, right? And you don't win. Here, if you were there for 30 days at any one point, get in.
You've already won.
You already won.
You just literally need to do the paperwork and go to court. Like that's
and
it.
The paperwork is easy. Most of the high end lawyers have the ability that they're not filling this stuff out by hand. Do not fill it out by hand. It's too late to do all that. Do not go to the government site. Get a lawyer who can electronically file. All they need is the 5 elements. They send up a spreadsheet at a time to the government, and then it's filed right then. Boom, it's done.
I saw last time I was in the U.S. I was in California. That was a few months ago, and I saw an ad. It was a Camp Lejeune contamination, lawsuit that I wasn't quite aware of exactly the details, but clearly it was a law firm that was taking that on, and you just needed to apply and take the next steps. How many people are affected roughly?
1 million.
Oh my! Is Lejeune one of the is it the largest Marine Corps base and one of the largest bases in the U.S.?
It's certainly in the paper that we went through. It always said it had the largest bakery of any military base. It had the largest steam plant of any military base.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything it said that it had, it was the largest facility. So in World War II, I mean, it was set up, I believe, pretty quickly to get everything up and running to accommodate, those soldiers, and also to act as a hospital, for people to fall back to. So the hospitals were quite active there. So the size of it is, like I said before, it's like 250 square miles, I believe, in size. So if you think about that as its size, I forget the number of buildings, but it's a lot of buildings. It has its own beach for landing and practicing and stuff like that. Which is, after they land and blow it up, then you get to go there and, like me and as a kid, play on the beach. So, it's the fun part. And there's pictures of me on that beach. But the main point is that out of that 1 million people that can sign up, as of I heard last night, only 260,000 have actually filed. So we're talking in the neighborhood of, let's just say, 700,000 people are still sitting out there scratching their head. And they should not be doing that. Another reason for the site I have, chemicalcasualties.com, is just go to the site. It's free to search for the name. Keep in mind, you can search for anybody you want to, your friend, your relative, anyone past, family member, something like that. Search for it. It'll show sometimes the rank it'll show, but it'll certainly show the year they were there. Those components are right there. They come up in 1 second. So I made it so it was lightning fast, the pull up, and it'll pull up all the names. Only search for the last name. And the reason I say that is that in the paper over the years, they modified the way they put, and you've probably seen this, I'll put A.J. Burnett, let's say, or they'll put Adam Jones Burnett, or they'll put Master Sergeant Burnett. It's all over. So if you put it in wrong, or you put too much in, and I've seen people do this and say, I can't find anything. Well, just start with the last name first. Go through the list. From the list, you're going to be able to see who who might be the person you're looking for,
Mhm.
or yourself. Once they click on that, that's all free. Once they click on that, they have a form they can fill out. And once they fill out the form, we do charge for doing that, okay, to do the rest of the research. But what we give them is essentially, we give them a copy of this. We have a PDF of this, and then we would also have like the article they're in and everything, the
Wow.
actual government doc number. So
So
there's
you're giving them the evidence. You're just
I'm
like, here.
thank you. I'm for a lower price than they'll pay on all those lotto tickets to try to win much less. I'm
You just
literally
need a dollar per claimant. That's it.
exactly. Well, true, right?
Like, let's be honest. You need a dollar per claimant. It's like, all right, I did my work. I did my good deed for humanity, and a dollar is all it costs. That's a no brainer. Can you come up to Canada? Can you can you do this for us?
My database will run anywhere in the world.
Oh wow, that's phenomenal. That's really cool. Okay, so it's time. It's definitely time sensitive. So the folks get a piece of evidence from you, and that's what they would use with their legal lawsuit. And if I understand correctly, they just have to have the suit filed by the beginning of August, correct?
August 9th. Yeah.
August 9th.
Some people say August 10th, but it's the night of the 9th. Once it reached the 10th, I think that's
Right,
closed.
they'll cut it off.
So, yeah, it's a
Right.
little confusing. People are posting different ones. I wouldn't
don't leave it till the last minute. Basically,
No.
is what we're talking about here. Don't go. Oh, I got a few more hours.
Yeah, and
like,
and we work with attorneys too. We have attorneys I've worked with that file electronically, so they know how to do it. They can do it swiftly and quickly. So if they want us to help, we have a checkbox that if you have an attorney, that's fine. Make sure you get all this data to them that we get for you. The other thing we do is research from the paper, like we talked about the ice plant and the mess hall and all that. We actually put those reports together because we feel, and we have checkboxes like, did you eat at the mess hall? Did you do this? If you did, you should be walking in with that evidence too, because right at this moment, there is a bill on the House of Representatives 8545. So it's HR 8545 is this week or next week should pass to technically change a couple things to make it quicker for Camp Lejeune people to get their money. It'll open up the number of states that can do the trials, and it will cut down lawyer fees. Another thing is going to put a cap on them, which they don't have right now. And the other thing that it does, it clarifies that all you have to do is have a casual association with the water. In other words, walking through the shower, okay, right, and snapping somebody in behind you with a freaking towel. It's
washing your hands, eating anywhere on camp. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you're on camp, I mean, like, let's be honest, you're getting exposed, and then the clock is ticking.
Well, and if you can jump back to my screen a minute, I mean, if you behind me right here, if you jump on that one, you'll see what I thought was one of the more scarier pictures I saw in the actual so the guy to the left
over here
is having the
water from his the canteen poured on his head. He's hot.
He's
pulling a hot shot. Private Roland.
Hot shot of TCE and a couple other chemicals. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
hold on a sec. I just want to interrupt you here.
Sure.
In what you've written here, if everyone gets $1 million settlement, totals could reach.
I don't even know what that number is.
That's thousands. That's millions. $750 billion. Let me do that again. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions. Holy moly.
Right. And even on the right, if you look, Bloomberg Law in 2023 said 21 billion to compensate. So it matches up with my numbers. It's in line with where they believe it is. And that was published, in there.
Wow.
And there's no limit here. Let's keep in mind, too, the government set no limit on what people could be awarded or how much they would have to pay out. It does not come out of the military budget. It's separate. It kind of, I don't really know where it comes out of, but they've not put any limitation on this. And no matter what you read, no matter what you hear, the last night from the lawyers directly, only 62 cases have settled.
Wow.
And the reason for this is that the government is dragging its heels, in the courts. And that's the reason for the HR 8545 bill to try to get that through to speed this whole process up. There you go. Hey, there you go. Very good.
See, maybe I got some long lost relatives that I did. You know what? I did have my great uncle actually was American, and he did serve in the Second World War. And I can't remember which battalion he was with, but I'm pretty sure he was Eastern Seaboard. Now, was he on Camp Lejeune?
Right.
I don't know. But my great grandfather is James R. Morrow, which is interesting, but that can't be him because he'd be way too young in this. But either way, very interesting. Like just my last name alone, like I didn't know there's that many Morrows. Period. So that's
you can
really
see how
interesting.
extensive this is.
Wow, like I'm like 6, 7, 8 scrolls down. That's
you're in the 70s. Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
The 70s and the 80s. That's Vic Morrow. I wonder if that's from combat. Was he a veteran?
Well, if he was name was in the paper, keep in mind the people did come there. One time, people asked me, said, "I found Betty Grable," and I said, "Well, I have a picture of her at Camp Lejeune with all these soldiers surrounding her."
Wow.
So, I mean, she was on Camp Lejeune, not 30 days, but technically she was there and she made it in the paper. So,
very interesting.
Do movie stars make it in the paper here? Yes. Does Kennedy make it in the paper? Yes, because John F. Kennedy was actually there watching them invade the beach one time. Mm-hmm. So, he was actually there. So in that case, the paper doesn't discriminate, in the sense of names, and we don't, because there is an effect that if you were there and you came there, and again, throughout 20 years, let's say you were there 30 days total, you're still qualified.
Wow. Okay? That's
and you
wild.
don't have to be in the military.
Yeah.
So all the civilian employees, one thing the paper did was they had, if you were there like 5 years or 10 years, they'd give you an award in the paper. Now, it's really hard for the civilian employees in any way to show I was there. There's no military record necessarily of them.
Right.
So the paper becomes the only way to really look up a name and go, okay, well, I was given an award. I was there 5 years. That's all I got to walk in the court with. Mm-hmm. So to me, we built something that is an evidence tool. We're not lawyers, but I do know how to sift through databases. And, the whole idea was to give you power so that when you walked in there, and as jury awards probably become back online, I got to think that guy is getting the water poured on top of his head. If he was showing that to a jury of any age, they're going to go, I need to leave the room a minute.
Yeah.
Because that's horrible. And we know the water was contaminated. And the government is trying to say, well, the only way you could really get contaminated is by drinking out of your faucet at home, which is just crazy. The water went everywhere.
Yeah. This is really interesting, but also very troubling. I mean, that is a decades long, slow moving disaster. Yeah. But I'm glad it's finally getting resolved. I'm hoping that Camp Lejeune's toxic soup that you've explained it has been remedied, and it's not, well, we're going to pay out, but we're just going to keep on doing the same old practices. I hope that this across the board wakes people up, because I just talked to Tim Jensen from the Grunstyle Foundation about toxic exposure and burn pits, and just our jobs are hard enough. we sign up to get blown up and shot at. It's dangerous. At a bare minimum, we just like our food and our water not to be killing us as well, and causing potential issues for our children if they're on base as well. Because we spoke about this just before we started recording, but we have the issue up here at CFB Edmonton, which is one of our largest bases as well. It goes back decades and decades and decades with contaminated water due to lead pipes that was covered up for years and years and years. So I don't know where the court case is right now. I don't know how far along it is, but I definitely know a lawyer that's bringing it up to the Crown, and she would probably be interested in being able to find as many plaintiffs as possible. So maybe a database might be in order. So maybe I could link you two guys up and see if
Sure.
we can strike up an agreement there. But
Yeah.
this is something that I'm tracking up here, and my audience is 50-50 American Canadian, and if you're listening and you got any American friends,
Yes.
any Marine Corps friends, anybody that would have passed through that base,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us train in Camp Lejeune too. There's a lot of exercises that Canadians go down and train at. So, a few Canadian names could pop on there too, especially in the lead up to World War II. Like, loads.
They were sports. People came there and played sports all the time. There are 2 or 3 pages in the Camp Lejeune newspaper all the time of everybody playing sports that came from different bases from all over the place and played there. Those people didn't play just once. And they didn't have Gatorade. So,
right.
60s, right? 60s, right? So they were drinking water. So they too, but more importantly, what our database does is show them that they were there. But they have to be more careful. Like, first of all, in sports, we notice a lot of times they don't mention rank. It's kind of bad if you're sort of tackled by your private.
Right.
So they leave rank out. However, they did put in nicknames like Pee Wee and stuff like that were actually in there. So that one of the questions we asked in our form were there any nicknames that your father had or you had or something like that? Because that might relate to playing sports of all sorts of different kinds. They liked a lot to put in there and lead to showing, okay, I was at this game, at this game, at this game. Bingo, I qualified for that reason.
That's amazing. So, Mark, this has been really informative, and I really appreciate you reaching out. And you got me at the right time. And we're going to get this out to the listeners as soon as possible. And the time is of the essence here for folks that want to make a claim. So let's just go over what's the website again, and how do folks find it?
Yeah, sure. It's chemicalcasualties.com. If you spell it wrong and you spell chemical casualty, it's okay. I registered both names. I expected people to misspell. And so it'll go to the site as you were on just a moment ago. You do not join. You do not subscribe. You don't need a password. That's not the way this thing works. You just go in, do a name search. If you find it and you're pretty sure that's it, you click on it, go through the process. And then from there, we do charge a fee to do further research, okay, to get the PDF, to get the work to you. But we also go further and try to find if there's any other points to that name. If you don't find a name, and you go, I'm pretty sure the person was there, it still allows you to fill out the form. But what it'll do is it'll say, I'm not charging you anything. Let us do the research. Because I've still got people putting these things in by hand. So there's a lot of birth and stuff like that was there in what they call the Stork Club. And in those cases, it's really hard for the computer to read it. So they literally have to do those by hand. So we're updating that constantly. So our system will just go back in what we call a data find you mode and say, okay, I'm just going to look every day. Oh, it came up. I got a hit. Well, then I just did this for a lawyer. I'll give a little story here. A lawyer called me. We were talking about something totally different. And he said, my partner's working on a Camp Lejeune case. 2 years they spent with the military trying to get the information, trying to see if they were there. If the military denied that the person was there, they said, nope, no record, got nothing. I said, what's the name? Gave me the name. In 8 minutes, my son and I not only found the name, we found his wife's name. We found the article where they were at and sent him the picture of the article. And he's like thrown off his chair. He's like, unreal. I said, yeah, because, they had a passion. This was the Facebook of the 50s. That's what it was. These Marines were reporting on other Marines. They were doing stories about what everybody was doing in day-to-day life and what they were up to. And so there's no thought of trying to cover up anything. And it's the only place you can really go where it's just raw data. It's what you walk in with and go, hey, it's not fake. It's all real. But what we'll extend to you guys, and I'll send it to you afterwards so you can put it up, is a discount code for your listeners.
Right on.
That'll get you about 33% off the thing, and they can use that code forever. Don't use the August 9th as a cutoff point, because remember, if you're already registered, you still need evidence. Every lawyer out there is going to tell you, you don't walk in here without evidence. Another thing we do, if they, I should point this out, if there's a picture, we do this too. let's say like there's a picture like this. Let me just use this as an example. Okay, so
Yep.
see like you got a picture of scrapbook, because my dad had these. He cut them out and he threw it in the scrapbook, but I don't know where they come from. We can reverse search the picture. Then once we reverse
Wow.
search the picture for you, and this is part of it, we just need your iPhone to take a picture of the front and the back of this, and then we'll reverse search it. We'll find the doc number, government doc number, the page, when it was printed, and if that was in the Camp Lejeune, we will find it.
Holy smokes.
Yep.
Mark, you've created a really, really incredible tool here. And I hope a few folks from the pool of listeners here are able to take advantage and share widely. This is incredible. Yes. And I appreciate the discount code. And folks, you're definitely going to want to check this out. If you have any inkling that any of your friends may have gone through Camp Lejeune, or you're a Marine and you spend all kinds of time there and you're not tracking this lawsuit, you definitely going to want to listen up and go get your docs from Mark's website. So Mark, I really appreciate your time. This was a really interesting conversation, and you're a really interesting dude. And I'll definitely put you in touch with the folks here up in Canada, because I think we might need your help putting some data together.
Great.
So yeah, absolutely. So folks,
let's make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. At a smaller scale too. Right. Yeah, less folks up here. So folks, thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate your time, and don't forget, train hard, fight easy. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Fellas, bring it in nice and tight. Bring it in nice and tight. We need to talk about your... All right, seriously, we need to talk about something that most of us don't want to talk about. That's why I put on my nice blue dress shirt, to bring a bit of seriousness to an often hilarious topic. But your sexual health is no joke. Seriously though, sexual health needs a lot more attention than it's been given. Let me go over a few things here. Research has shown that regular sex, what's 1 to 2 times per week, can reduce the risk of cardiovascular mortality by 50%. Bring that one to your wife right now. Lower the risk of prostate cancer by 33% and reinvigorate your mind and body. The problem is 40% of men in their 40s, 50% of men in their 50s, and 60% of men in their 60s experience some form of erectile dysfunction. This is even worse in the veteran community. On top of all this, erectile dysfunction is correlated with a future cardiovascular event and is an early warning sign of a future issue. This is why Dr. Elliott, board certified urologist and friend of the podcast, has created this one of a kind, first in its category, revolutionary device called the Firm Tech Ring. This high-speed tech for your dick will give you real-time data and allow you to see how many nocturnal erections you get every night, which can be a great bit of data that you can bring to your doctor for a future conversation. Not only that, this data could literally save your life. You know, I'm all about improving the health and lives of the veteran community, and that's why I've paired up with Dr. Elliott Justin to provide you with a 10% discount if you head to the link that's here in the description to get yourself your first Firm Tech Ring if you use the code DMorrow at checkout. So head to the link in the description and start tracking so that you can start banging. All right, brother. So go do what you got to do and be one of the first to bring a whole new meaning to being hard to kill.